example 2 is a parental mix. We've got the first drug and the second drug, and it's got this little brace beside it that says we have to give intramuscular at 0800. So when they stack them vertically and they put that little brace beside it, that means they want you to give them in the same syringe. Okay. So we have 2 drugs, and I've got the labels down here at the bottom. Now you can see that the atropine, okay, here's its little label, but the order for the first drug says hydromorphone, and the label says Dilaudid. Okay, that's just an issue of the trade name of Dilaudid. See that little registered trademark symbol? That's the trade name. But below it is the generic name of hydromorphone. So you have to be eventually, not right now, but eventually you have to be able to recognize both, that those are the same drug. Okay. All right, so we need to give hydromorphone 1.5 milligrams, and we've got to give atropine 0.4 milligrams. So let's start with the Dilaudid. We're going to figure out how much Dilaudid we have to give in a syringe and how much atropine we have to get in a syringe, and then we're going to pull up both of them in the same syringe. Okay. So to start with the Dilaudid, how many milliliters will you prepare? So we need to figure out milliliter per dose, right? That's our desired answer. Now from your label, you can see that there's 4 milligrams, but it doesn't tell you in how much fluid. Okay, so we're gonna pull in that 1 milliliter as well. Typically your labels will have more information on there for you. I just chopped the biggest part of it there. So if our desired answer is milliliter per dose, we want to stack milliliter on top. So let's put the 1 mil over 4 milligrams. So that first fraction typically is going to come from your label. The second fraction comes from your order, as long as those units are matching. Our order's in milligrams, the label's in milligrams. So yeah, we can just pull over the 1.5 milligram per dose, and our units cancel. So we're ready to go. We got milliliter on top, dose on bottom. So 1 times 1.5. Divide that by 4, and we get a 0.375 number. Now, keep in mind that we are fixing to pull this up in a syringe, and if we've got to give an intramuscular shot, we typically use the 3 ml syringe, since that's the maximum we can give for 3 milliliters of fluid. So that 3 ml syringe has calibration markings that will let you round to 1 decimal place, right? So we don't need 3 decimal places for an answer here. We need to go ahead and round it to 1 decimal place. So 0.375 is going to round to 0.4 milliliter. All right, so we need 0.4 milliliter of Dilaudid, but we also have another drug that we got to put in that same syringe. So let's work on that one now. The atropine, how many milliliters will we prepare? So again, milliliter per dose. First fraction needs to have some milliliters in it, and we said typically that comes from your label. Right in here it tells you 400 micrograms is 1 milliliter, so we can stack 1 mil over the 400 micrograms. Then we need to look for our order, and you'll notice that our units don't match. We've got milligram up here, microgram down here, so we are going to have to do a conversion. There's 1,000 micrograms and 1 milligram. We are ordered to give 0.4 milligrams per dose. Okay, so check for those units, make sure they're canceling. And again, the general lineup is that the first fraction comes from your label, the second fraction comes from your order as long as the units match. If they don't, then you have to throw in that conversion. Okay. All right, so run the math and it should come out that you get 1 milliliter. Now, I would like to point out that on this label, you've got the concentration listed 2 different ways. I worked with the big one, the big bold, it was easy to see. 400 micrograms is 1 milliliter, okay? But below it, smaller, it tells you 0.4 milligrams is 1 milliliter. And that would have been an easier choice for us, especially since our order is written in milligrams, okay? So that would have eliminated the second fraction, that conversion. So work with either one of them. You should get the same answer either way, okay? Okay, so now it's going to ask, what is your total combined volume? Okay, so I shoved my labels up here and I pulled up a syringe because we are going to have to look at it on a syringe as well. But the total combined volume, so think back with me, we said we needed 0.4 milliliters of Dilaudid, and we did our math and we found that we needed 1 milliliter of atropine. Now technically you would never write this 0, but to run the math, just so you can see it vertically, whenever you're adding those together, I just put it in there for our note-taking purposes. Okay, you wouldn't technically ever write that. But add them together and we should get a total of 1.4 milliliters that we inject into our patient. And again, your total amount needs to be less than that 3 milliliters, okay? Even if each one of them separately are smaller than 3, if it ever totals to be bigger than 3, that's not an intramuscular shot, okay? You need to reduce the math. So just to give you a visual on the syringe, we would pull up the 0.4 milliliters of Dilaudid, and then we would also pull in 1 milliliter of Atropine, but the total, it's going to be a 1.4 milliliter. So right there in front of that 1.5 mil. Okay, that's so total is the 1.4, but you'd have a small piece of it is Dilaudid and a bigger piece is the Atropine.